the conflict? At the end of the conflict?
So free will, God, conflict, essays, how many pages? Anyone else?
How are you doing today?
How are you doing today? How are you? Things are okay?
Yeah.
Business is good?
Business is good. I had a strange experience Tuesday when I was in class where I may have helped save a man's life. He had a seizure, fell to the floor, and I held him and got him on the side and got his airway open.
How old was he?
Probably about 50.
Married?
Yes.
Children?
I don't know. Higher. I don't know.
Was he good looking?
Big guy.
Is he useful?
At this point, I don't know. Scary.
Yeah. I had a friend who had a dog, and he had this dog for some years, but the dog had arthritis. There came a point where the dog couldn't eat, couldn't walk, and he lived on a farm. So one day he looks at his dog and he says, I think you and I need to go for a walk. And they went for a walk, and he was carrying a shotgun. And the dog sat, and he just shot him, and then buried him, and then went home and had a hot dog. Yeah. I'm sorry? The dog could see, but she couldn't eat. Yeah. You know, there is this last scene in the book, Death of a Salesman. It's something we talked about in this class, I think. He comes to realize, I mean, he's a healthy man. He's not very old, maybe about 50, maybe my age. Hello. He lost valuable relationships with his wife, with his sons. And even though he could have probably gone living another 5, 10, 15, 20 years, he unfortunately was looking at the bigger picture. You know, my wife is gone, my kids are gone, no one speaks to me. I am guilt-ridden, shame-ridden, and he comes to realize he has a life insurance for about, $500,000. He says if I die, then they get the money and they can live a relatively good life. And then he commits suicide. And I guess sometimes even when you have lots of years to live, maybe ending it is better. But this is, by the way, not encouraging any of you to take that path. It's just a thing to talk about. As for writing the essays and how long the essays should be, when I was... Short essay. I'm sorry?
It's a short essay.
I don't know short or long, but...
You said short or less than.
I don't know short or long. But when I was 15, I went out with this young woman.
Wait, so how many pages?
I'm telling you. Yeah. When I was 15, every time I get interrupted, I have to start over again. So when I was 15, Matteo, I went out with this young woman, and the conversation was not very interesting. So we went to this coffee shop, and I asked her what she wanted. She said, a salad. And when she was looking away, I just left the coffee shop and never returned.
What? Why? A salad?
I just didn't like to be around her. Then I went out with another woman after a few weeks. And we sat and we had coffee, but I didn't want to spend more time with her. Then a few weeks later, I went out with another one. I like the conversation. So we had coffee and dinner. And the point I'm trying to make is when you ask about how long your essay should be, essays are nothing but your relationship with ideas. Some ideas are not interesting. Sometimes you're not at the proper place to have a relationship with an idea, so you just leave the ideas, like the way I left people. And I can't tell you how long or short your essay should be. If there is a question that inspires you or excites you, sometimes like, who's that woman who wrote that book? You know, the Hobbit book? It's not Hobbit, it's Harry Potter book. You know, it started as a paragraph. And then when she found herself in the zone, she went to New York, rented a room in an apartment for like 6-7 months and just wrote every day for about 5, 6, 10, 20 hours. Now, you could have asked her to write a short book, but that's not the way inspiration works. So if you're not inspired, you can write a line. I don't really care. If you're inspired, you can write 25 pages. Still, I don't really care. It's about you. So does that answer your question? Miles, is that you?
It's not. Why would it be me?
What?
I said, why would it be my fault?
Oh, it's you, Marquise. It's probably my phone then. Okay. So, free will. God, free will, religion. Okay. Have you ever played billiard, pool? You know, stick and...
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine that the white ball hits a black ball, or a blue ball, or a red ball, or a pink ball. And this pink ball is just rolling on the table. And imagine for a moment that this pink ball has the ability to think and reflect. And while this pink ball is rolling, it says to itself, I'm doing it on my own. I choose to roll around. And that pink ball believes in this for a long, long time until someone forces the pink ball to turn around and look at the force that caused it to roll. And it comes to realize it had really no free will. It was the white ball. And the white ball assumes, very much like the pink ball, that it had the power and the will to move and cause the pink ball to move. And then after many, many years, the white ball is forced to turn around and looks at the stick. I says, oh, so it was the stick that caused my movement. The stick, of course, wrongly also assumes, like the two other balls, that it had the power and the will to move. And goes on assuming that for many, many years until someone forces the stick to look around and sees you. Says, oh, so if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be, moving around. And so you going to the pool hall, imagine that it is your will. And then you think back and you say, oh, well, I was sitting home, I was alone, I was miserable. So it was the misery that pushed you to the pool hall. And then you think that misery just came from the gods. Then you look at your life, you say, well, I work at Home Depot from 6 in the morning till about 5, exhausted, drained, exploited, manipulated. My life sucks. And then you say, oh, it's Home Depot that caused your misery. And then you ask yourself, well, what caused Home Depot? Well, you can take it to so many different places. Capitalism, greed. And then you sit back and ask yourself, who is really free? Some of you in this class just come to class once a week. Some, when you come once a week, you play with your phone. You sit back and you fall asleep. Sure, I can blame you, but the truth is there are so many different components involved. Khayyam, who is a Persian Sufi poet, astronomer, he has this line, I won't say it to you in Persian, in English, that if you happen to be an intelligent, wise, insightful human being, you would begin to understand how the world works, the nature of cause and effect. And then you would never blame anyone for anything that they do. And once you remove yourself from this blame game, all of a sudden you realize your mind is never agitated. You expect, but just in case your expectations don't come true, you're still not agitated. That's just the way the world works. I don't know if God exists. I suppose we can talk about that, briefly today. So I can prove to you for sure. Anyways, Alex, how's in and out? Anyone else before we? Andrew?
Let's talk about the notion that there are as many pathways to God as there are souls.
Many pathways to God. Let's replace the word God for something else. Authenticity, creativity. Hello? Are you good?
Yeah.
Test negative? Good job. I don't know who said that. I know that some of those kinds of thinking come from the Indian tradition, that there are as many paths to God as there are stars up there. It's something that Guru Nanak talked about. There is this beautiful story about Guru Nanak. For those of you who may not know who he is kind of like the Jesus of this tradition we call Sikhism. So one day, Guru Nanak goes to a mosque, and he was so tired, and he just fell asleep. But his feet were facing where people usually pray towards. It was a mosque. And so the custodian of this particular sanctuary comes to him, beats him up, and says, "What are you doing? Your feet are facing the presence of God," for example. And he looks at the custodian and says, "Where should I lie down where my feet is not facing God?" And the point is, it doesn't matter where you go, it doesn't matter how you do whatever, God is always there. And the custodian gets embarrassed, bows, kisses his feet, and then commits suicide. The last part, I'm just making up. Yes?
I have a question. So like Sikhism or Sikh people, like they're not supposed to cut their hair or something, right?
Okay.
But what happens if it gets really long? Like, can they cut it?
No,
So they're never supposed to.
never.
Wow. But I mean, so if they actually truly don't ever cut their hair and they grow to live to be like 100, then wouldn't their hair be really long?
Most people don't live to be 100. And Samuel. And so they don't really will get a chance to see their hair like brooming the ground. I don't know. It's up to them, whatever they want to
Well,
do.
I mean, you teach religions of the world, so you should, I thought maybe you know.
I don't know. I've never really cared about those things, but maybe I should. I think the saying that there are many pathways to God as there are stars was probably stated by someone who doesn't think well about anything. If I was to ask you, how do you start playing the piano? It is true that when you become very, very advanced, you can improvise and you can create your own music. But by the time you become very, very proficient, everybody who wants to learn how to play the piano in a very proficient way, they have to go through the same steps. You need to learn how to read the notes. Unless you just have a very, very exceptional ear, where you can just memorize, pay attention, mimic, and then hopefully after some time improvise, create your own music. You have to learn how to stretch your fingers. You have to learn how to put your feet or your foot on the pedals. You have to, at a certain point, make sure that what you see and what where your fingers are and how you want to push the pedal, they're in sync, in harmony. And that takes a long, long time. And then you have to kind of slowly begin to read music sheet that's very, very complicated. Is it true that after maybe 5 or 10 or 15 years of heart-wrenching work, you can be really good? Yes. Is it true that when you become really good, you can improvise? Absolutely. So yes, anyone who becomes good, they can improvise. But to become good, the discipline is very much the same for anyone who wants to be good at anything. Now geniuses aside, for us regular people, you want to be good at something, the steps are very much the same. You want to be a good football player, like the people who play at Laney, you just got to be on the field at 3 PM and you're there till about 7. Then you got to go home and do your schoolwork, because if you don't have a 2.0 GPA, at least a C average, you're tossed out. So no, there are not very many ways, there's only one way. And when you come to the finish line on that one way, then the lines become many. Avenues become many. You can take whatever path you want to create your own music. You want to do jazz? Fine. You want to do heavy metal? Fine. You want to do classic? Fine. But you have to be good. And to become good at anything, sacrifice is always necessary. Without sacrifice, you can't do much. Sacrifice is the fuel. You want your wife to like you? Well, take out the garbage. You may not want to. Vacuum. Do laundry. Fold laundry. You want your kids to grow up to take care of you when they end up in a nursing home? They come visit you? Well, sacrifice. Time, energy, all that stuff. So no, there are no many ways. There's only one way. But this American idea that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and then add to it that junk called individualism. It's my life, it's my thoughts, it's my emotions, I can do whatever. Fine. And this is the mess you get. I'm upset right now. Assalamu alaikum. Why do you guys ask me questions that upset me? Right, Matteo? Anyone else before we, Chandler?
You talk about how some things, in relation to psyche and relationships and stuff, some things can break and weaken and crumble, or do that and then afterwards get stronger.
You've heard these people always say, they're usually older. They could be young as well, but if you're young, you're just a little raw. You don't have clarity. Not that you do when you get older, but most often, hopefully, when you age a little. That I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't go through A, B, C, D, right? Do you like chicken tikka masala? Do you know what it is? It's poison for your soul. Chicken tikka masala is an Indian dish. Hello, Chris. How are you? Before I forget, now that my good friend Chris is here, if you have any friends who are looking for a late start introduction to philosophy class, this class, but online, it's only the last 8 weeks. It starts October 19th or something.
Wait, you can teach you?
No, you can't. Just in case you feel like you're failing this class, drop this class. And anyways, I'll tell you.
Is it online?
Yes, online, fully online. There is an 85-90% chance that Chris Rubin sitting there will be teaching that class in a few weeks. If you like this class and you don't want to drop it, despite the fact that you will fail it, in other words, you'll get an F. If you have friends who are looking for a class to take, tell them to take Philosophy 1, taught by Chris Rubin. Don't forget, if we don't have at least 20 people enrolled, the class will get canceled. Okay. Let's move on now. I'll let you know for sure. So let's just say you and I go out and we go to House of Naan and Curries on College and Ashby. And we order chicken tikka masala, mixed vegetables, and a couple of garlic naans. We sit, and it's your first time. Your taste buds when it comes to chicken tikka masala is a virgin. You've never had chicken tikka masala. And so you begin to have the food, and you begin to love the food. And then you go home and you say, I want to make this myself. Okay? So remember, you can't have a desire of anything without first becoming exposed to it. And you would not want to repeat the desire if the desire has been negative, no pleasure, okay? That you spend money, you spend time, in the end you leave the restaurant saying that food was just bad, okay? So remember, to pursue anything, you must have first been exposed to it in some shape or form, you must have liked it, and then you continue the journey, okay, of having the experience repeat itself. So you go home. And you go online, you look at the recipes, and you follow the recipe step by step. You go to the store, you buy the ingredients. After 5 or 6 or 7 hours in the kitchen, you realize when you taste the food, it's unedible. It's awful. Well, what you need if you want to make chicken tikka masala in a way that's edible, you must not give up. The desire must be intense enough inside to say, okay, I want to go back to the store, get the stuff, and do this again. And let's just say you get in your car and you want to go to the store, but you only have $20 and your car doesn't have gas and you don't have any credit cards. So before you can go to the market, you have to get some gas. But to get the ingredients for the food, you need funds. Imagine you have the funds. Well, how often can you make mistakes before you run out of money? And let's just say you have an infinite amount of dollars. After about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, you will eventually get the recipe right. What did it take? Lots of patience on your part, lots of coming to realize the food is bad, coming to realize you wasted money, you wasted time, you wasted energy, okay? And after 5 years, you've gotten things right. Imagine I'm your father, and I have been the most mean-spirited, awful man who's ever lived in your life. I've broken you. The formative years, these are the years that you pour the concrete and you let it sit until it hardens, and then you build a house on it. I am your gateway towards your future relationship as a man, as a father, as a son, as a friend. And if that foundation has been cracked, you will never be a good father. You will never be a good friend. You will never be a good husband. And I know I'm making blanket statements, but for the most part, it could be true. Now, what does it take for you to overcome all of that? You need resources. Okay? And some of the resources is the first few years of your life into adulthood, you're going to have a good amount of anger and hate inside you. And people have to tolerate you. You're going to walk into people's lives, destroy them, and then walk away. And you're going to mistake that for power that you have. And then there comes a point where you catch yourself, that you become an awful human being. That's going to generate so much awful emotions inside you. There's a good chance that your hate is going to explode upwards. You're going to hate yourself. Maybe you want therapy. I don't know. Maybe you'll do drugs. Maybe you'll get into fights. Who the hell knows how people react to certain things? If you're able to overcome those emotions and practice some patience, you're going to sit back or stand back and observe the things that are happening inside you. Taking notes on them is going to be difficult. That's a different set of emotions you have to encounter and then deal with. After many years of studying the emotions and many years of studying why your father, has been the way that I have been, you have to find a way to overcome your history. Once you've overcome your history, now you go back into life as a healthy man who's had an unhealthy past, but you know what to do with the past. And when someone looks at you and says, when you speak about your father, when you speak about your past life, it sounds very much like what I'm going through. How did you overcome it? Now you can educate me. Now you can take care of me, a student who happens to be 18 in a class. Now, are you the person that you are because of your past? Absolutely. But it's because you had the tools to know what to do with your past. Because if you don't, there's just going to be like a lump right here. It doesn't mean you won't get into relationships. You will. They just won't be very functional for the most part. The only thing about the book of Job that all of you in this class should read, not because it's a religious text, not because it's perhaps the oldest book in the Bible, in the Old Testament, but because it's about the human condition. It's about every one of us in this classroom. We do the best we can to survive this life. You pay your taxes, you're good to your parents, you're good to your friends, you're good to yourself, and all of a sudden an event happens. It just crushes you, turns your life upside down. And you think about ending your life, ending your marriage, walking away from the entire thing. You find yourself depressed, isolated, alienated. You find yourself in this dark cave, as Plato would say, but not in this context. And you blame God. You blame everyone around you. Job didn't, but you and I will. And Job lived through miseries for many, 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 many days, weeks, months, maybe even years. The book doesn't tell us. At some point, he comes to understand that he has no power over life and he has no power over God. God does what God wants. The only thing that a human being can do, pay attention, observe, take notes, and accept. That's the only thing we can do. You may not like me. What are you going to do? Drop the class? Delay your graduation? Go complain? And then what? What's going to happen to the next instructor you get? When is your complaining going to end? What you have in the book of Job is this progression of a human being who is arrogant, self-righteous, a God who is ignorant, stupid. You have the force of Satan, who comes to challenge both Job and God. And once the events are in place, Satan leaves. Now you think you know everything about love. I walk into your life. And you fall in love with me, I fall in love with you. But the problem with relationships is that after a while, love goes away. You just need to be decent, man, responsible, mature. I am the Satan in your life. And after 5, 6 years, you come to realize you're still the immature ass you've always been. But without me entering your life, you would never know that. And you know what happens at the very end of the book, near the end? God looks at Job and says, you human beings always complain. You just complain. Just shut your mouth. Accept life for what it is. Grow up. And that's what happens to Job. He grows up. If at the beginning of the book he had 1 wife, now he has 25. If he had 5 kids, now he has 55. If he had 2 cows, now he got 200. And the point is, everyone is rewarded when they begin to understand things the right way. It's not even up to you. God owes you. If you understand things the right way, God owes you. Yes, you can learn from your mistakes, but only if you have tools. Without tools, you'll just get crushed. And add to it the fact that in this culture, you don't really have the proper stories to get to know how to deal with the slings and arrows of life. Can I tell you a story? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I remember the thing you said about the Buddha and how, like, after he got to a certain point where he realized, like, his life was going downhill, he was only able to make it better because he already had, like, a good life, like, so to speak. So are there just some people who, like, aren't able to make it out of their situation?
How many Malcolm X's have you seen who witnessed their father being lynched? How many Malcolm X's have you seen who see their mother turn to drugs, to see their siblings be taken care of in foster care, to end up in prison, to find an Elijah Muhammad figure, to be given a lot of power and then walk away from the power because they're just earnest students of life? How many of them have you seen? It's luck. I don't know how it happens. I don't know how one can recover from some very horrifying events that happen in their life. You know? And I think you should also know that I think to some extent Freud and many others like Freud had some interesting things to say, that we have a tendency and we have this software inside us, I don't know how it comes about, that you forget, you repress, you shove everything under the rug so you don't see. And once you don't see, you don't feel. And once you don't see and feel, you just forget. It's good. You know, you don't need to like go to a therapy to have everything dug up, shoved in your face, and then come to realize, well, what the hell do I do with all of this? Well, you can't do much. It's good to forget sometimes. There's nothing wrong with it. If you happen to be a really, really good student, where your skin is thick enough to be around pain and learn what pain has to offer you, then great, good for you. But if you're going to crumble at every corner, there is no reason for you to dig things up. Just wait until your time is right. You know, some people come to my office and they say, I want an A. They can't even speak the right way. They can't even like put a paragraph together, a sentence. They want an A. What the hell do you say to such a person? They're what, you're stupid? Say, okay, I'll give you an A, just get lost. Again, it is true you can learn from your past. It's very, very true. As long as you have tools. Have you ever been to my garage? Of course not. You're not invited. Hello, Amir. I built this shed. I have 1 million tools in my garage. I had the desire, I had access to the internet, I had some extra cash, and I just went online, Amazon, and I just ordered all these DeWalt tools, and then called Amazon telling them they never arrived. You guys like that? Once a thief, always a thief, huh? So the desire to overcome something is not enough. You really need to have the tools. You also need to know how to use the tools. If you lack any of these components, you just get stuck. And there is nothing wrong. You know, find the resources, go out there and get them and learn, you know, how to use them, and then be on your way. It's good. Samuel.
How do you find the proper tools?
Oh, you can't. You can't find the proper tools because you don't really know what you're looking for. And even if it was right next to you, you wouldn't be able to see it. You know, when they asked Socrates about wisdom, he said something very interesting, that if you want to buy socks, you'll just go to Ross. If you want coffee, you go to Starbucks. If you want a jacket, you go to Nordstrom. If you want milk, you go to Safeway. Well, where do you go if you want wisdom? Now, the thing about wisdom and your desire to have a glimpse of it or possess it is that there are lots of markets out there. Eckhart Tolle is one, Jordan Peterson is another, this class may be another. And you can fall victim to any of those things. And to some extent, it depends who and what you are. I think it was Transformer 3. Who's the main character in the book, and in the play, in the movie? Jonathan. It's some action figure guy. He's really, really good. And he's very cute too. So he had a girlfriend. She's now married to another man. One day she gets drunk. She knocks on his door. She's almost naked. And she looks at him and she says, "I love you. I want to come in and you and I need to do it." And he looks at her and says, "You're drunk. Let me give you a cup of coffee. Go home and, have some time with your husband and your son." And the woman is very attractive. And I'm sure if the woman knocked on your door, you say, "Oh, please come in. Let me get some beer out." Right? And that's the difference. You see yourself as a rat. He sees himself as a saint. He doesn't want to take advantage of someone who's weak, whereas you, it's a gift from God, you say. Okay? So who you fall victim to, for the most part, depends on where you are exactly in life. Are you looking for a quick fix? If you're looking for a quick fix, Eckhart Tolle is your Messiah. Because you can go to the microphone and say, "I am angry. What do I do to overcome anger?" And his answer is, don't think about it. It's finished. And people applaud as if he says something profound. Okay? You go to Jordan Peterson, he says, "Well, start by cleaning your room." Okay? You ask Socrates, he says, "Well, just hang out with me for about 10 years. Now, if you don't have time, you say, well, maybe Jordan Peterson. If your room is really, really cluttered and you just want to play video games, you'll probably just gravitate towards Eckhart Tolle." گفتم دل و جان بر سر کارت کردم، هر چیز که داشتم نثارت دادم. گفتا که تو باشی که کنی یا نکنی، این من بودم که بی قرارت کردم. Imagine you come to my office and you say, "Your class is making me crazy. I have all these emotions. I don't know what to do with them." And I look at you and say, "Samuel, did you have these emotions prior to coming to my class?" And you say, "No." I said, "Did my class make those emotions, generate those emotions, create those emotions inside you?" You say, "Yes." "Well, who does this class? Who runs this class?" I say, "Well, you do." I say, "Well, those emotions belong to me. They're not yours, they're mine. Don't ever claim those emotions to be yours." Okay? So when you come to my office, for example, saying you're going crazy because of these ideas, in essence what you're saying is, "Amir, help me find a way, to deal with these ideas." The truth is, none of the emotions that live inside us belong to us. They've been created by other forces. It belongs to them. You're just borrowing them. At least know how to use them well.